Hello everyone, it's been about a week since my last video, and before I jump into this one, I want to show you guys a little upgrade that I got. Here it is! Let's go ahead and switch to the camera. So to start off, I've been wanting a camera for some time. It's been a little difficult to always film on my phone because that's what I've been filming on this whole time. It took up a lot of storage. It was hard to, I couldn't mount it anywhere sometimes. It was hard to turn it around to get the better camera than this one and then see what I looked like. So difficulties with that, so I did want a camera for some time, and I thought that when I get into medical school, this will be a present for myself, and so I finally got the camera, and I'm really excited. I'm hoping that with that, the quality of the filming also gets better, and in general, the videos are a little bit more pleasant to watch, because I know that sometimes when I'd record on my phone, it wouldn't even focus on me, it would focus on the background, so I would be blurry half the time. Anyway, that's enough about the camera. Let's get into the video. The thing that I wanted to go through in this video is a timeline of basically college, post-bac, and my application, and which school I'm basically going to be going to this year. So let's start with, hopefully there's enough space to where I can put stuff right here, but let's start with my college. First of all, you guys probably already know based on the channel name and everything, I was a finance major. These were the grades that I got as a finance major, and they're all business classes as you can tell, and I was a criminal law and psychology minor, first one, then I switched to the other one. So a bunch of those classes. I would say I did decent. I'm not a stellar student. I have some C's, I think, as you can see, so definitely not the best student. Throughout college, I was a D1 athlete. I think that's one of the biggest things, definitely one of the biggest influences on my life. Also, a really big thing that I emphasized in my application. I wrote about it in terms of leadership. It was a big thing in my personal statement, so I really relied a lot on that. And then for my college activities, the things that I did in terms of work, I was a tennis coach, I did a law internship in an office, and I was also a biology tutor during college. In terms of activities, I did mock trial and I did pre-law society. Those I feel like weren't as big of an influence to anything medical school application related, but I did have some leadership experience in terms of that. Research, I did some research in the medical school, and I also did some research with the psychology department. I would say those were my first experiences with research, so not a lot of things that I really pulled off of that in terms of my application, but it did give me a little bit of depth in terms of how long I've been doing research. And in terms of volunteering, I volunteered with the Salvation Army. I did disability support services in college, or in class. I volunteered at an elderly care center, and I volunteered at the hospital and at Miriam's Kitchen. So I did have a ton of volunteering during college and during the summers. I think it's also because I had a lot of time that I could give to that. And so out of those, I think the biggest ones were definitely the hospital. That was my first experience with the hospital setting, seeing what it's like to be in the emergency department in general. And even though there wasn't a lot that I could do, that's really something that inspired me. And then the other big volunteering experience for me was Miriam's Kitchen, which is a homeless organization, more than just a soup kitchen, but they really try to get people off the streets and into housing and into jobs, and that was another thing that was just very inspiring for me and that I loved being a part of. So those were my two big volunteering experiences that I put a lot of emphasis in my application. Next, this is the bulk of my medical school or pre-med career because this is where I did my informal post-bac. I enrolled in community college classes because I knew that I could pay for them myself. At that point, I already started working at the hospital, or I was trying to work at the hospital, and if I worked full-time or part-time, they would pay for some of my classes. So I actually ended up paying for most of my community college classes through that program, so I didn't even pay anything. And I think that was just a very smart choice for me financially because I already put so much money into a finance degree that I wasn't really going to use. So yeah, those were my grades for my post-bac. I basically took just the very basic science courses. So my overall GPA, my science GPA, I think was around a 3.5. My cumulative GPA was around a 3.6 overall for undergrad and post-bac. And for post-bac, I did, in terms of work, I started working as an emergency department technician full-time at the hospital. I've been doing that for 3 years now. That has been just probably the biggest activity that I guess pushed me to get accepted because it showed that I was committed to the field. I was there for 3 years. I got a ton of experience. I learned just so much medical knowledge. Being exposed to that field, working with doctors and nurses, it was very, very helpful. I recommend it honestly to everyone that's thinking of going to medicine, just to try and see what it's like. It's a really good experience. In terms of activities, I did a lot of shadowing during this time. During my post-bac, I shadowed ortho, general surgery, emergency, and urology, so a lot of shadowing. It was really fun. It was just a way to see which specialty I liked, and also obviously looks good for applications. Research, this was one I did a ton of research. I was very fortunate to meet an attending that was doing a lot of research, and I guess he liked me enough to invite me onto his project, and so I did research on nurse burnout or workplace violence, buprenorphine, central sensitization, interfacility transport. 3 of those studies went on to get published. 4th one is probably going to get published this year. We also collectively as a department worked on a manual that you've seen in my other videos, and I took a lot of leadership in that, and that's something that's going to get published this year as well. So basically overall, I was heavily involved in research and had multiple publications, and I think that's another big thing that helped my application stand out in that way. And then lastly, in terms of volunteering, I didn't have a lot of time because I worked full-time and did all that research on the side. And so volunteering, I finished out volunteering at the hospital, and I volunteered every now and then at the homeless community shelter. So you can tell that I was a lot more involved extracurricularly in college because I had that time outside of just tennis and studying. In my post-bac, I was a lot more involved in the research because I was spending so much time working that it was easy to just take out a computer and really quickly do some studying in that sense. And I think overall it basically balanced each other out when you put my whole application together. And then the MCAT, you guys already know if you watched my last video, I took it 3 times. I got a 497, 498, and a 505 was my last score. There is a video on the breakdown of my scores, how I got them and what I used to study, if you want to watch that. So I'm not going to hit a lot on the scores, but overall that was my application overview. All of these, in terms of time spent, all of these are pretty consistent. I volunteered all throughout college, pretty much volunteered all the way up to when I was applying. Like I said, I've been working for 3 years. I've been doing research all throughout that. So I would say overall, I don't have the exact numbers for everything. They're in my application somewhere, but it was just very consistent for a long period of time, and I heard that that's something that medical schools like to see, that you don't pick something up and then drop it right away. So that's it. So now to give you guys a better idea, and now with my stats in mind and my whole application, I want to go over the list of schools that I have applied to and everything that happened since then. So basically, I applied to around 25 schools. We'll start with the MD schools. I applied to UMD, GW, Rush, Drexel, EVMS, Georgetown, Penn State, New York Medical College, Rosalind Franklin, Virginia Tech, and Stony Brook. Those are my MD schools. For DO schools, I applied to Lecom, Pennsylvania, Edward Viacom, University of New England, Marian University, NYT, PCOM, Des Moines, Lecom, Florida, Chicago, Nova Southeastern, Western, Rowan, ATSU, University of Pikeville, and California Health Sciences University. So a lot more schools there because I knew that my application was a bit less strong for the MD schools than it was for the DO schools, so I definitely emphasized the DO schools more. So going on from that, I received secondaries from every school that I applied to except for EVMS, who rejected me before I even could send them a secondary, so that was fun. Going from there, after my secondaries, I was put on hold and re-review for UMD and Drexel. UMD was my in-state school, so that gave me some hope. And then from there, the 3 interviews that I ended up getting from this application cycle were Penn State, University of New England, and California Health Sciences University, or CHSU. And from there, as you already know if you watched my video on being waitlisted, I got waitlisted on all 3 schools. And then from there, there's 2 schools that pulled me off their waitlist were UNE and CHSU. And so between these 2 schools, I decided to go to UNE in Maine. Very exciting. Oh my gosh. I'm getting like emotional saying that I got accepted there and I'm going there. I'm very excited. It's a little bit far from my family. I've never been up that north or up that far north in Maine, and it's gonna be cold. I think that's the one thing that I'm scared of because I'm such a warm, hot person. I love like the Florida climate, the heat and the humidity, and going somewhere where it's gonna be so cold and snowy and icy, I don't know. But I'm so excited. It's a great program, great school. I know a couple people that go there and they love it. I think the curriculum was a good fit. The school in general seems very supportive, very helpful. They really care for their students. So to me, there were a lot of good reasons to pick UNE, so I'm very excited. I hope that was helpful. I wanted to give you guys an idea of what my application looked like, and with that in mind, what kind of schools I applied to and what schools that I heard back from, to hopefully give you an idea on how to build your application. I think I pretty much covered it all. If you have any questions, leave them below if I did forget something or if you want clarification. But yeah, I think this will be my last video until I start packing up and make my move over there. And yeah, I think next time I see you guys, I might be already in Maine. We'll see. But yeah, thank you again for watching. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!